How would you act if you were in a situation where an institution was harming one or more people? In the last episode, I described a class that I was in, business ethics, where I had a small confrontation with the teacher over this question. The teacher gave us a little ethical problem. What if you had privileged information that a coworker of yours was going to be laid off, but you also knew that coworker was buying an expensive house that they could probably no longer afford after they were laid off? What should your action be? My teacher gave us an answer. She said that we should keep the information quiet and let the coworker buy the new home, even though they probably couldn't afford it any longer. I disagreed with this. I was concerned that the students of the class would take away the wrong ethical message from this. So I went up after class and respectfully disagreed. The teacher did not take my disagreement well. The teacher wasn't interested in a discussion about the topic. The teacher wanted to throw me out of the class, give me a failing grade, and used that threat to silence me. What unsettled me wasn't that my professor disagreed with me. It was that disagreement itself was treated as unethical. That reaction wasn't personal. It was institutional. Listen, ethics isn't threatening because it's wrong. Ethics is threatening because it's unpredictable. So, institutions want predictability. They want their quarterly profits to slowly grow. They want their employees to function within certain acceptable parameters. They don't like randomness. And evidently this teacher didn't like randomness either. But the thing is, I could sort of understand it. Rules are predictable. Policies are manageable. Ethical judgment is not. Institutions don't fear unethical people. They fear people who won't outsource judgment. So, when you're in a position where you're speaking an ethical point to an institution, you'll run up against several things. First off, the institution wants to not accept the responsibility for its ethical stance. You'll have situations where, the power that runs the institutions just blithely says, I didn't decide this. They refer to an employee handbook. They refer to possible NDAs. And so they can easily say, look, it's here, right in text, that's what you should do. And that removes choice from the equation. Their choice as well as yours. They'll say, the policy required it, or my hands are tied. Ethics is precisely the opposite of that. Ethical thinking internalizes responsibility. It takes the concept of harm and expects action based on the perceived harm. If one person breaks silence ethically, others might too. And if more and more people break the silence, challenges the institution, then the institution's control erodes quickly. Ethics is spread through example, not permission. And that's terrifying to institutions. You're not saying, as an ethical person, this decision is bad. What you're saying is you don't get to decide whether it's good or bad alone. And that's a power threat, not a policy dispute. So how does an institution view ethical complaint? Well, they use words like unprofessional, disruptive, not constructive, even naive. What institutions do is they shift the focus from harm to process, from outcomes to protocol, from ethics to compliance. Notice how quickly the conversation stops being about what's right. So, how does an institutional body deal with elements within itself that point out harm? Well, there's many techniques they use. Put on report, maybe. You are told to shut up and be part of the group again. Or your career might stall. You don't get the promotion that you deserve, or you lose credibility in the institution. Oh, don't listen to that guy, he's a whack job. Or you'll just be labeled as difficult. And what's important here is that this is a reflexive action. It's not done with malice. It is done to reframe the problem back from harm into compliance. Go with the flow. Don't make waves. Maybe you'll get your credibility back. Maybe people will talk to you at the water cooler again. Maybe you won't be labeled as difficult. The teacher didn't reject my answer. She rejected the act of questioning authority. And you can see this in schools, corporations, churches, governments. It's all the same thing. It's all a reflexive reaction to stepping outside the process and pointing out harm. Listen, ethics costs certainty, even personal safety, belonging, advancement. Ethics doesn't usually fail because people don't know better. It fails because knowing better is expensive. It is expensive to the person pointing out the harm, as well as being expensive to institutions who just want things to run a certain way, because it's always worked that way. If institutions punish ethical unpredictability, it requires a person to speak from a position of fear, of threat. And that's how institutions can mitigate or eliminate the threat of ethics. Next time, I want to talk about what happens when it's not authority applying pressure, but the crowd.